Recently, I was going through my eyeshadow palettes and I began to realize there's certain eyeshadow palettes that I have that I'm really not using as often as I should. So I'm here today to share with you the 4 eyeshadow palettes that are the most underused in my eyeshadow collection. We're going to talk about why that is and how I'm going to remedy that in the month of March. I'm Amy, and if you like project painting content or beauty content, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel and like this video if you have many eyeshadow palettes that are underused just like me. Over on my Instagram, I've kind of already introduced this idea, and my main goal was, originally I thought, well, let me try to use each palette for 1 week out of the month and see how I do. Now, then I thought, I don't want to get fatigued in this. I don't want to get bored of that particular eyeshadow palette. So instead, over on Instagram, I did a randomization for each of the 4 palettes. I randomly picked a number between 1 and 7 so that the maximum amount of time that I would use it is 7 times for like a whole week. And so that is what I was going to be able to do. Instead of saying for 1 whole week, I'm using only this palette. Each palette has its own set of uses that I have to achieve on it, and I can get that at any time. And I really kind of felt like that would open me up and keep me motivated to using these things that I'm already not using a whole lot, and the goal is to want to use them. The first one I'm going to talk to you about today is ColourPop Lust for Dusk. And while I like this palette and I do appreciate the color story, I don't know for this one exactly what it is that keeps me from using it. I know that I'm not super crazy about the formula. I don't feel like it's as good as some of my favorites like Huda and ABH. That I do know. It's just not, it doesn't have the same power and the same opacity and the same staying power that those do. So I do know that it sort of disappoints me in that way, but not to the point where I feel like I want to get rid of it. So when I looked at the color story, I think sometimes I just get confused about what do I want to do. There's so many different ways to go, and my crutch is to go with these, neutral brown colors. When I used this palette, which was 2 times, I had randomly generated the number 2, and I have already hit those 2 uses. So my goal for those 2 uses was to use some of these shades that I don't use very often. And so for my first look, I definitely used Twilight, and I stuck Moonlightning on my lid, and that turned out really, really nicely. And the next time that I used the palette was to kind of use this orange row for a monochromatic moment, and that really was cool too. I can tell by looking at these 2 pinky purple shades that I haven't used them at all. So even though I've already used this palette the 2 times that I randomly generated, I do still want to create a look using both of these. I think that'll be really fun for spring. And so even though, like I said, I've met my goal, I'm not finished with this one yet. I still want to use it. The next one that I want to talk to you about is Persona's Identity. This formula is amazing. The mattes in here are really pigmented and blendable, and the shimmers are very smooth. They're sort of like metallic almost. They're very, very pigmented and very easy to work with. So it's not a formula thing. I know exactly why I don't use this a whole lot, and it's because it's on the cooler side. And that is why I bought it, because I don't have a lot of cooler toned eyeshadow palettes, because I feel like warm tones suit me best, and that's what I'm the most comfortable with. So I bought this on purpose to get out of my comfort zone. And I think that you can tell that I have used this palette. It's not completely neglected, but it's definitely not one of my most reached for because of that cool undertone color story. I am supposed to use this 3 times and I haven't even used it yet, and it's the only one of the 4 that I haven't used yet, if that tells you anything at all about my aversion to cooler tones. but I'm trying to make myself like really branch out. And I know that it has this pop of orange, which is called Audacious. And of course, I really like using, you know, like these two. I think it's the kind of the metallic shimmers that really kind of get me. They are cool, and except for maybe this Goddess. Goddess is this one, and it's kind of brown, but it is very pigmented. And I think that's another thing about this one is it is so pigmented. I have to be really careful. So not that it's a bad formula, because it's great. It's just something that me as a makeup user has to kind of get used to it, and I've had it for a while, so I need to be more used to it than I am, for sure. The next one that I want to talk to you about is a Huda palette, and it's my first Huda palette that I ever bought, and it's the new Nude palette. I bought this one several years ago because it was on sale. I wanted to try Huda as a formula, and I wanted to start to branch out into some color, and this offered color for me in a way that I felt was kind of safe, and it worked. I really love the purple, mauvey, pink tones in here, and I think that that's why I don't use it, is because it's so purple and so mauvey that it makes it hard to want to use it, aside from like Valentine's and, you know, February kind of month. I have to train my brain to say, this is still a really good palette, and you can still use this any time of year. It doesn't have to be only in February. I randomly generated the number 7, and I've already used it 3 times. I'm very proud of that. And within those 7 uses, I have really tried to take advantage of some of these, like, even though they look brown, they still have a tinge of a mauvey undertone, but I've tried to really delve into those, and I've really been enjoying using Love Bite to create some definition in my like outer crease corner. And the last most unused palette that I have in my makeup collection is Tarte Maneater. I randomly generated the number 3, and I have used it 1 time so far. And again, I know exactly why I don't use this a whole lot, and it's because in my mind, I've pigeonholed this into a fall palette. Just like New Nude is a Valentine's Day palette in my mind, this is a fall palette. But that's not the case. It doesn't have to be the case. Look at this row right here with the purples and the pinks. And, you know, some of these right here, great for springtime. Even this green can transform into something that can be bright and springy as well. Summertime, for some of these bronzy tones and the orangey tones to create like a sunset kind of look, sort of like Sigma Ambiance is what in my mind that I'm envisioning. This palette can be used all year long. So in my brain, I just have to retrain myself to say, you know what, it's great for fall, but it's also great for other times of the year too. I hope that you can take some inspiration from me, especially from my thoughts on these two. Just because in your mind you've pigeonholed a palette to a certain time of year or certain occasion, try to branch out from that, because these 4 palettes are not used like my other ones, because in my mind I don't view them as the daily palettes. I view them as special occasion kind of things, and I want to be able to get use out of them because I spent the money on it. They're great. There's nothing wrong with them. Maybe, you know, this ColourPop one is the only one that I really like. Not the most crazy about, but it's not bad. It's not, like I said, it's not to where I want to get rid of it. But they're all good things. They're all great products. I love them, and I'm allowing myself to use them this month, the crazy month of March, using some cool tones, using some pink tones, using some purple tones, using, you know, again, pink and purple tones in the month of March. When everybody's trying to think of green, I'm trying to tell myself, girl, use any color you want. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you have subscribed and liked this one, and I'll see you later. Bye.